And we're live. All right, everybody, welcome to another Tidepool for Telemedicine webinar. Today is Thursday, April 9th, 2020. My name is Christopher Snyder. I'm the community manager at Tidepool. Today, Dr. Adi's jumping ahead on us. Dr. Adi, you
I'm
might want to
sorry.
disable that screech.
I'm
He's so
sorry.
excited.
Go
Dr.
ahead.
Adi is so excited to get to our talk about Tidepool for Telemedicine. He's going to jump into the slides just a moment early. I want to get through a couple of paperwork and little procedural things here first. So again, I'm Tidepool's community manager, Christopher Snyder. If you've interacted with Tidepool in any form or fashion, you've likely sent me an email one way or another. So hello, everybody, to all 37 currently attendees joining this live webinar. This is exciting. This is our first proper live webinar, so please excuse some of the technical hiccups as we figure out how this is supposed to work. But I feel confident about how this next half hour is going to go. So today we're going to be spending the next 30 minutes to talk about how Tidepool can be used to help facilitate your telemedicine appointments with your patients. In this brave new world that we're a part of, telemedicine first is likely going to be the way to go for the foreseeable future. Tidepool can help with that. For those of you that aren't aware, Tidepool software is free for people with diabetes and clinicians just like you. And I say just like you because we've been for the past 48 hours, we've been getting this webinar out, trying to share the attention to clinicians primarily. I know there are a couple of people with diabetes that are in attendance right now. I see you. Hello. Thank you for coming. We're going to focus mostly today on the clinician experience, but there are plenty of webinars planned for the future that will be focused more on the patient side of things as well. Dr. Saleh Adi is here with me. He is a pediatric endocrinologist. He's also Tidepool's chief medical advisor. And he has prepared a number of slides today to demonstrate how he uses Tidepool with his patients, how Tidepool can be used with your patients. And every now and then we're going to be breaking in between his slides to address questions that are going to be coming in. So comments and questions can be sent in through the Zoom interface. There's a Q&A button at the bottom. You can click on that. Send in your questions. If they are appropriate for the webinar, then I will queue them up for either myself or Dr. Adi to answer. Otherwise, we have Suzanne from the Tidepool team who's behind the scenes who can also address stuff via text. So here's Dr. Adi. Saleh, how are you doing today?
I am very well. Thank you, Christopher. Thanks for the introduction. And let's jump right in. So everybody can see me now, and I'm going to share my screen to get to the slides. So to get going, you only have about 30 minutes or so. Tidepool for telemedicine, and I think just speaking about Tidepool in general will demonstrate how useful it can be and will be for telemedicine. We've done a lot of telemedicine actually at UCSF, primarily because we were using Tidepool and it allowed us to do telemedicine very easily. So even before this whole coronavirus thing happened, we were doing a lot of telemedicine, and not just for people who live too far, even the people who live in the city. We were doing telemedicine all the time. So on today's agenda, let's see how I can advance the slides right there. The objective today is to review the use of Tidepool in general, but maybe with a little focus on telemedicine, and review some case studies with you, how I use Tidepool in the practice, just to give you a flavor of what Tidepool can do for you. Compared to other systems. And then we'll have some questions and answers in between those cases. So I'll jump right in and talk about what I think are some of the advantages of Tidepool versus other platforms, is that it is a device agnostic. And it's basically a single platform that you can use for viewing the data from any devices the patients use. With any pump and any CGM, it all works with Tidepool, and a number of meters that can be also downloaded to Tidepool. And there's a whole list of them on the website, and Christopher can talk about that a little bit more in a few minutes. It is extremely simple to use, and actually patients always upload their own data. And it really is shifting the onus of uploading the data from the clinic, from the staff of the clinic, to the patients, because they can do it at home. It's a simple process once they establish their account and start uploading the data for you before they come to the visit in person, or obviously before doing any telemedicine visits. And then even without telemedicine, like I said, the responsibility of data uploading goes back, back to the patients now. So alleviating a lot of time on your staff in the clinic. It also includes automatic upload of CGM data. So I would say over the past year or year and a half, we have not been uploading CGM data because it uploads automatically all the time. And very soon, and I think soon meaning in the next year or two, we will also be uploading pump data automatically. So any device that goes to the phone, as long as the data is going to the phone, it can go from the phone to the Tidepool mobile app to the cloud directly without having the patient uploading any device. And we're going to get there in the next year or two. So the data will be automatically in the cloud, and you can see it on Tidepool website. And it also shifts the focus to time and range instead of A1C, and particularly in the context of telemedicine. In the way the data that will be viewed, and you will see that in a few minutes, there's a lot more focus on the time and range column than the A1C itself. And for telemedicine, because we're not able to get an A1C, that's a very useful thing and a useful feature of just looking at the time and range and focusing on that. And you will see that there will be an estimated A1C based on the CGM data. But I like to shift the conversation about time and range instead of A1C. And also it allows the data review between visits. So as long as they can upload the data, you can review it, because if they do it from home, they can do it how often they want, or you ask them to, and you can review the data. And as Christopher mentioned, it is free. The software is free for everyone. There's no cost to the patients or to the clinician. And I should mention and remind everyone that the CGM data review that you can do in Tidepool is reimbursable. And you don't have to have a visit per se, neither a televisit or an in-person visit. If the data is up there and you can review it every 30 days, you can certainly submit a bill for it with the CPT code that's listed there. So let's go over the fun part, which is just to look at a few examples of how Tidepool visualization of the data works. Excuse me. So this is an example. Jane was a 10-year-old diagnosed at age 6 and has established a Tidepool account and shared her account with me, so I can actually view her data anytime. So when I log into my account as a clinician, I have a list of all the patients who shared their data with me, and I can click on her name and I can go directly to her account and see her data. She uploaded recently, and the default view is the trends view. And I'm going to point out here, we have 4 different views: the basics, the daily, the BG log, and the trends. And Christopher can explain those a little better than I do. But usually the default view immediately, the landing page, is the trends view, which is what you see here. And you can choose to use 1 week, 2 weeks, or 4 weeks data. And here's the date range that's chosen there. The default is 2 weeks, and here's the date range that we're looking for the data. And on the right side here, we see the sort of the statistics of the data. The dark purple here is anything above 250, and the light purple is between 180 and 250. And this is the target range, or what we call the green zone, which is 70 to 180. And she's spending 25% of the time of these 2 weeks right here, that she's 25% in green, which is clearly well below the target recommendation of 70% in the green zone target range. And down here, we see that this is the average glucose for those 2 weeks, the sensor usage of 96%, which is important to note. And here's that glucose management index, or the estimated A1C. Based on the 2-week CGM data, it's 9.0%. And this is the glucose variability index, or the 32%, again, based on the CGM data that we have. So the general look here from all of this view right here is that she's clearly spending a lot of time in the high zone and very, very little in the green zone. As we saw here, it's only 25% in these 2 weeks. And this is, generally speaking, telling me that she needs a lot more insulin just about everywhere. So this is the nighttime here. between midnight and 9 a.m., she needs more insulin, probably more basal rate. And then during the day when she's eating, she's clearly high, high, high all the time. So she needs some insulin, some adjustment of insulin here for her boluses. And we make those adjustments, and we'll get to that in a second. But again, just for the purpose of reviewing this, the value of the trends view, after a few weeks of making an adjustment, we go back and see at the trends view, this is clearly a much bigger, much better, bigger picture, showing now we're actually 59% in the green zone, much less in the high dark purple zone. And she's spending a lot of time in the green zone here at night. But we're still purple during the day. She's still high here. So now we want to go in and do some fine tuning and review of the data in a more detailed view. And that's where I go to my favorite view, which is the daily one here. If I click on that, it's going to take me to a single day, and let me walk you through it. So again, this is one day, Monday, March 9, and what we have here is this is starting at midnight and ending at midnight, and that's also the default. But this is a continuous. I can grab it right or left and just move it from one area to another, and then I can go back to the 12 a.m. But I can certainly do it from 6 a.m. to 6 a.m. or so forth. Up here, we'll see there will be a little post-it note. If the patient chose to write a little note for me or for her, it's something to remember here. There will be a little post-it note. You hover over it and you can see. And down here, obviously, this is the CGM data in here. And this is the target range right here, the dotted line. It's very faint. You can't probably see it, but this is why this is green, and we call this the green zone. And then here is the purple. Notice that there's no red below 70. She has no hypoglycemia whatsoever. It's 0%. And down here are the boluses. The carbs are with the numbers in the yellow circles, and these are the columns for the bolus. And this down here is the basal. So this patient is already using the tandem control IQ, and that's why you see the basal rate here. This is the set basal in the pump, and anything that's lightly shaded and there's a dotted line, that means this is the override. It's either increasing the basal or decreasing the basal. That's the control IQ, the algorithm making the adjustments. So we can see that the nighttime is actually pretty good. She's nice and green here, but the system is doing that for her. It's giving her a lot more basal rate during the night to keep her down in the green zone, suggesting that she probably needs a little bit more insulin for basal rate at night here. And we can see that in the next slide. But during the day, as soon as she starts eating, she just goes higher and higher and higher, suggesting that maybe it's the insulin to carb ratio that's not enough, or that her carb counting is underestimating her carbs often, or maybe it's her basal rate that's not enough during the day also, just like the nighttime, we need to increase the basal during the day. Or maybe her correction doses are not working, but I don't see many correction doses here. It's actually very few. It's always just eating for carbs and snacks. And if we go to the next day, we will have an opportunity to actually see that she had that period of 6 hours without eating. And if she doesn't eat, she actually drops back down into the green zone nicely in here with a couple of correction doses, this one and this one. These are automated correction doses with the control IQ that brings her back down. So clearly indicating that maybe it's her insulin to carb ratio that's not enough, or the carb counting that's not enough. It's not her correction ratio that we need to focus on. So if I hover over this column right here, I will actually get a window that has a box that has the information. The blood sugar was 129. She ate 40 grams. She had a little bit of insulin on board, and the pump calculated and delivered 4.44 units based on a carb ratio of 1 to 9 and an ISF of 90. That's her correction factor. And her target was 110 at the time. I can hover over any of these boluses and it will give me the same information. So for this 10-year-old, 1 for 9 grams, I think that's pretty aggressive. That's a lot of insulin to give for carbs for a 10-year-old, and who's not exactly in full puberty. But her ISF, if she really needs 1 for 9 grams, her ISF may be a little bit stronger. I think that's a little too weak and not bringing her blood sugar down. And that's why she's staying in purple very often. So we make a little adjustment. I don't think that a 10-year-old should use more than 1 for 9 grams, but we adjust the ISF a little bit. But more importantly, we talk about how confident are you in the carb counting? Are you underestimating? And she says, yes, we are, or, often underestimating. So we end up, talking about it, making those adjustments. And then I think the next slide, we're going to see that we made a little difference. So I choose this particular day to show here, simply because you will notice that there's no pump data here. There's no boluses and no basals. That's because I did not ask the patient to upload her pump data. But her CGM data is automatically there, updated every 3 hours in the Tidepool cloud. So after making those adjustments, a week or so later, I can just go in myself without having to bother her at all. I can just go in to take a look at the data and see how is she doing, just with the CGM data. And clearly, as you can see, she's now 79% in green and doing very well with no hypoglycemia whatsoever, and much less purple, obviously, here in the high dark purple above 250. Only 4% of the time. So clearly those adjustments are working. She's counting her carbs a little bit better and paying more attention, and we don't need to do anything. I feel good about it. I can send her an email and say good job, and that's the end of it, without having her upload any data whatsoever. Questions? I'm going to pause here on cue from Christopher.
Yeah, so you want to take down that screen share. We've got a lot of activity. Thank you to the 71 attendees. 71. Hello, everybody. All right, so we've gotten 9 questions so far. We're going to run through these as efficiently as possible, but I've also been asked to speak a little bit slower. I get really enthusiastic about talking about Tidepool, and I know that I can speak quite rapidly about this, so I apologize about that in advance. So we're going to go from the top, from Anna Maria. Are you planning to adapt Tidepool to other browsers for Mozilla, Edge, Safari? An example. Examples are browsers that she had recommended there. So to this question, currently Tidepool Web is only compatible with Google Chrome. It is the only supported browser. There are plans down the road to add support for other browsers, but it's not in our near-term roadmap, and I don't want to overpromise anything to you. So for now, Google Chrome is the only supported browser that you're going to have to use that if you want to use Tidepool and Tidepool Web today. Also from Anna Maria, are there plans to include Roche's pumps among other supported devices? That's sort of I don't know. The best thing I can offer right now is that if you haven't already, send an email to support@tidepool.org to let us know that that's the device that your patients are using. And feedback from clinicians helps us prioritize our development work. So the more that we hear about stuff like that, the better we can do to prioritize the work that we're doing. Question from Andrea. Hello, thank you. You mentioned that Tidepool can be used with every CGM. How can it be used with Guardian Connect? I'm actually going to share my screen real quick and take you all to tidepool.org/devices. Here you can see all of the different devices that Tidepool's software is currently compatible with. When it comes to Medtronic's sensors, you can actually click on this glucose or CGM filter and the Medtronic sensors. So Tidepool software is compatible with the Guardian and Enlight sensors, in particular the data that's coming off of the compatible insulin pumps. So the older Medtronic pumps that are working with the Enlight sensor, that CGM data we can pull off and upload and display within Tidepool software. For the 670, the Guardian sensor, that data is coming off of the 670 directly. So once you're using Tidepool Uploader to upload data off of that pump, that CGM and carb and insulin data is all coming off together then and there. Let's see what else we have here. This is from Deborah. Why did you choose the time and range top point to be 180? And not 140? Can the top range be adjusted by patients? Deborah, I would like you to know that not just the top range, but the bottom range can also be set too. So here I've actually logged in as James Jellyfish. This is a demo patient account. For patients, they can, once they've logged in to their account, they can click on their name at the top and adjust the high and the low thresholds for their blood glucose targets, and that will adjust the calculated statistics that are displayed within Tidepool Web, within the basics and daily and trends views. So as you and your patient discuss where their diabetes management goals are, those settings can be adjusted as they need. Question from Ramon is the AGP report sort of like other systems have on the horizon? Short term, no. Long term, I hope so. That is a request that we hear often from clinicians, and it is certainly something that we are looking to provide down the road. Again, I don't have a timeline on when that's going to be available. Don't want to overpromise again. But again, every time a clinician writes in to support@tidepool.org, that feedback helps us prioritize the work and the conversations that we have to improve our software for the entire Tidepool community.
Christopher, maybe this is and time to highlight that you can copy the statistics and paste it in your note, which gives pretty much almost the same information as the AGP.
So you are actually right on target with the next question from Alberto, talking about the trends view. And he was talking about reviewing the different percentiles. I'm going to share my screen one more time and show you something from the trends view here. So here we have the trends view. And again, this is CGM data to a demo account, and you can look at 1 week as this updates, 2 weeks, or 4 weeks of CGM data. And as you are reviewing all of these, as you are changing the dates that are displayed here, the summary stats on the right will update, displaying the average daily time and range, and the GMI, again, that approximation of A1C here. If you click copy as text, that the summary statistics that you see on the right here can actually be pasted directly into your chart notes. So everything you see here in terms of the time and range, average blood glucose, sensor usage percentage, glucose management indicator, standard deviation, coefficient of variation, all that is copy. You can copy that as text, paste that directly into your chart notes. No, it's not AGP, but this is where we are right now. And again, this is an opportunity for you to get Tidepool data offline into your chart notes for a proper documentation. Regarding Alberto's specific question around the different percentiles, we are displaying the median as the color dot. The dark gray rectangular boxes are the 50% or 50 percentile. The lighter gray are 80% of CGM readings, and the full outliers, 100% of CGM readings, are the outlined boxes there. Let's see. Let's going to keep going through a couple of these, and then we're going to hand it back over to you, Dr. Adi, for one more run through patient data.
Take your time.
So, question from Luigi: why even set a basal rate on hybrid pumps since the systems are just adjusting based off of CGM data? That's actually a great question for you, Dr. Adi. Why are settings so important when dealing with a hybrid closed-loop system?
I hope we have time to actually show that the last example, which addresses that per se. I think for two reasons, to be quick. This is a long sort of discussion we can have. But the one is, when you have the basal rate optimized, the system will only have to change minimal changes, so that the changes will be far more effective and quicker to accomplish what they're intending to, than to wait for doubling the basal rate, or even tripling the basal rate often, or decreasing the basal, like stopping the basal rate completely. So I think that when we have settings that are optimized, we will get much effective adjustments with the closed loop. Mm-hmm. And then the other is to remember that the closed loop algorithm is reactive, meaning that it's waiting for a change in the CGM data to make an action. And then it makes an action, and it's going to wait 60 minutes for that insulin action to actually have an effect, because insulin is not immediate, doesn't have an immediate effect. So we end up actually zigzagging. Blood sugar going up, we increase the basal, we wait 60 minutes to start coming down. We decrease the basal, we wait 60 minutes before the insulin adjustment takes effect, and then it goes up, and you end up with a zigzag outline of CGM. If you have an optimized setting, you actually have a proactive anticipation of what the insulin requirements are going to be in an hour from now. And I'm actually giving you now what I think you're going to need in an hour from now. So the adjustments, will be minimal and far more effective. And you get a much smoother line and more effective time and range down.
We've still got a bunch of questions here. Do you want to try and run through another demo real quick, or would you like to get to the questions? I'm going to let you on this one, Dr. Adi.
Let's do a couple more questions. I think we have some time.
Question from Fran: does the 670G sensor upload automatically or just Dexcom? Currently, the Medtronic sensor data is you have to use Tidepool Uploader to upload that CGM data. With Dexcom, there's the ability to upload through Tidepool Mobile on iPhones. However, for Medtronic sensor data, they have to use Tidepool Uploader in that upload process to get all that CGM data in there. We have one more question from Anna. Thank you, Anna. Is there an export to CSV feature yet? No, not yet. I'm following the final tasks that our engineering team are working on. It is it's not easy. Engineering is not easy, but we understand the importance of this feature. It is often requested by clinicians and patients alike. It's requested by me, and I know that our engineering team is eager to deliver this to the Tidepool community, but we don't want to release anything that's not working, and we have a very rigorous testing, verification, and validation procedures before we release any software update to the Tidepool community, and it's not up to our standards yet, and we're going to keep working at it until it has reached that status there. Let's see about, we have a bunch of different patient billing codes. I'm going to get to those. We might actually answer those in text because it's a little more complicated than this demo situation, or than this webinar that we have here. Last question that I want to get to before we get to one quick example for you, Dr. Adi. How to use the information from the view, from the trends view, looking at the 50, 75, and 100% glucose readings to understand what is going on. That might be an opportunity for you to bring back in your presentation to just go back over one more time what you look at when you look at the trends view, and see how you might be able to use that to inform conversations with your patients. Do you want to bring up your slides real quick?
Yeah, I think that actually, before we go into the slides, I would answer this, that it really, you develop your own sort of favorite view to go. So my favorite view is a daily view, as I mentioned, where I look in details at every event and every bolus for about a week and make adjustments that way. The trends view is really for sort of just seeing a big picture where things are and where to focus on, and also seeing a big picture of, did we make an improvement or are things now worse? Did we make a difference overall? But in terms of actually helping in making adjustments in the insulin to carb ratio and the ISF and the basal rate here or there, I don't think it's super helpful. It's simply, for me, is a direction to where I need to focus, and then go into the daily view and do that. If you only look at the trends view, then it's helpful in some ways when you have a very clear trend. And now I'm going to show you that on the slides, even though it's not actually showing the trends view. But here's one example, like clearly here that we see that this gentleman's lady's basal rate is too high during the night, and it's dropping her blood sugar every night and waking up low. And then if we go to the next slide, the same thing is happening. And the next day, the same thing is happening again and again and again. Every night, the basal rate is dropping her blood sugar all night here. She took a little bolus, but that wasn't what dropped her all the way here. And if we actually, I don't have a slide showing her her trends view, but if we looked at the trends view, you will see this very clearly. And without doing anything else, you will immediately show that it's clearly the basal rate at night that's too high. We need to make that adjustment. But I usually click on the daily view to reinforce that and confirm it, and then make sure that this is really what's happening. Because how would I know that it's not, that she's not bolusing right here every single night? And how would I know that she's not over bolusing, overriding with the pump recommendation without looking at the daily view? That's why I look at the daily view to confirm first. All right, and after all that adjustment that we made for this lady, again, going back and seeing that now we got rid of that drop in her basal, in her CGM data at night, and she's doing much better. Now, here's another example I think addresses the earlier question, which is, this is another young lady, Ursula, who's 17, diagnosed at age 3. She's had diabetes for a while, and was using the Tandem basal IQ, where it shows that the suspend and the resume, if you can see, there was the tiny little S and R here. But this is how Tidepool displays the basal IQ data, where it's suspend and resume every single time for the basal rate. And these are the boluses here, and this is her CGM data, clearly showing that this system is very, very effective, keeping her blood sugar from dropping below the 70. And she's doing great during the night, and her basal rate is working very well. And then she wakes up, and then she eats her breakfast and forgets to bolus, and she goes really high, and then she corrects it, and it comes back down. This is 2 hours, and if we left it for another hour, it would have gone down some more into the lower part of the green zone, clearly suggesting that her correction ratio works okay, and in fact, maybe even her boluses for the carbs, okay, maybe she needs a little bit more, but it can work eventually and bring her back down. So the focus here is not, her basal rate works great, her insulin to carb ratio, maybe, and her ISF, her correction doses work really well. So the discussion here goes directly to, let's see how we can help you remember to bolus for your meals, because she was rushing going to school here in the morning. And this happens almost every day. So we talk about those kinds of things, and we make some adjustments. And now it's about a week later, and she's actually switched from the basal IQ to control IQ. And I want to show you how the control IQ data shows up here, almost the same thing. We will see that this is the set basal, and then we will see here the little adjustments increasing a temp basal just a tiny bit, and then here is decreasing it just a little bit here in these little areas. And you will see that for the nighttime, when you have a basal rate that's set nicely and it's working very well, the system does not have to make that many adjustments at all. And the adjustments are minimal and more effective than having to go up and down, up and down, up and down all day. And it takes a long time to bring it back down. Versus the nighttime, it's nice and smooth here for the whole night. And then she wakes up and then she eats and actually boluses for her meals. And it works very well. Her blood sugar comes right back down. So her insulin to carb ratio works okay. Again, she eats another snack here and forgets to bolus, and it goes up. But now the control IQ algorithm starts bringing her down by increasing her basal. This is almost tripling her basal. And by doing all of these automated correction boluses every hour to bring her back down. And then she eats again and goes up, and then she remembers to bolus half an hour later, but that's another story. But again, emphasizing that it's not her settings, it's really about just bolusing for the food.
All right, Dr. D, we've actually, time flies when you're having fun talking about this awesome free software. I want to address, so I want to address a couple of last questions here and then run through a couple of final resources for everybody who's taken the time to attend this webinar. Again, thank you all to all 69, 70. I think we got up to 75 attendees at one point. This has been a fantastic first run for us. Thank you again. So quick question from Tanlin. Do you have patients connect in the office or at home? The answer is, especially in this telemedicine future, patients can create their account at home, and then you can send them a message and have them share their data with you. It's as simple as 3 clicks. And I'll actually show you really quick what that looks like. From the patient point of view, as James Jellyfish here, I click share. I put in an email address, and then that's all you need to worry about in terms of sharing your data there. James Jellyfish is actually our primary demo account, so he's sharing his data with all of our Tidepool clinicians, which is kind of wild because that's actually my live data. So I'm sharing with all of you lovely Tidepool clinicians out there. In terms of, finally, a question from Catherine. What is the advantage of using Tidepool over T-Connect, Dexcom Clarity, LibreView? I'm a little biased because I work here. However, my question to you would be, using Dexcom Clarity, how can you tell when your patients are bolusing for their meals or issuing corrections? For patients that are on T-Connect, what happens if they switch from a t:slim pump to an Omnipod pump? Tidepool is the solution for you in that, because we support all those devices all in one place, and the data presentation is the same regardless of the device your patients are using. The last thing that I want to leave you all with, and I'm going to share my screen one last time, is tidepool.org/telemedicine. Here we have collected and presented to you a whole bunch of different resources to help you and your team get started using Tidepool in this telemedicine present that we're now living in. We've also created a bunch of resources for you to share with your patients regarding getting started with Tidepool, regarding using Tidepool Uploader. We've also included pre-drafted emails for you to send to your patients to get them started with Tidepool. And in particular, the thing that we actually just published this morning is a new clinician getting started guide. So if you are new to Tidepool, this is your first time interacting with us, this is a crash course of a half hour for you. But again, if you go to tidepool.org/telemedicine, there is a link right here for this getting started guide that will take you to a PDF that you can review in your own time to walk you through the entire getting started process for you and your team using Tidepool at home. That is actually going to do it for today. I will spend a few more minutes here in the chat to address the questions that have come in. And then after that, I'm going to be uploading this video to YouTube so we can share the archive of this video to the rest of the Tidepool community, to everybody that has taken the time to register for this. It's been a fantastic 30 minutes for us. We're going to be doing more of these in the future, so be on the lookout for more announcements for this. And Dr. Adi, I can't wait to have another run through of this with you. Hopefully we'll be a little more efficient, and hopefully the dog won't interrupt. But that's the joy of working from home. So again, signing off for Dr. Adi. Again, thank you, Dr. Adi, from me, Christopher Snyder from the Tidepool team. This has been our Tidepool for Telemedicine webinar for April, what day is today? April 9th, 2020. I don't even know what day it is anymore. Thank you all for attending. I hope you all have a great day.
Thank you.